Court-ordered ankle bracelet.
She's not evil. She's a good girl. I know deep in my heart it was an accident.
Justine would never hurt another human being, and she wouldn't hurt herself.
Delisa Willis and her daughter Amanda have known Justine all her life.
I think that they wanted so desperately to have someone to put the blame onto.
A small town torn apart, then a stunning aftershock. Amidst the debate about whether this well-liked 10th grader intended to commit suicide while taking 2 innocent lives, Justine's family makes a move no one expected.
Why would you stoop to something like that?
When we continue. As the seasons pass in northern Montana, 16-year-old Justine Winter is facing murder charges, accused of deliberately killing a pregnant mother and her son. It happened when she crashed her car minutes after sending her boyfriend frantic text messages, threatening to kill herself. The victim's family, racked with grief, is soon overcome with outrage when Justine's family files a lawsuit blaming Aaron Thompson, the woman killed, for the accident. Her husband is dumbfounded.
I come down to the door and here's this guy that hands me these papers to say that they're suing me for her pain and suffering. It was so absurd.
The lawsuit unleashes a wave of anger in this small Montana town, including posts on the newspaper's website. This is truly pathetic. She needs to spend the rest of her life in prison. And shame on you, Winter family.
When we found out that they had served him with that civil lawsuit, my reaction was, all that's going to do is agitate people. It's not going to change our minds on pursuing this prosecution.
At the same time, Justine is slowly recovering from her massive injuries and has no memory of the crash.
She had a bolt in her head. They had to relieve the pressure. And her neck was fractured. You notice a lot of difference in her mind capabilities sometimes?
You could tell that she had a harder time remembering things sometimes.
High school counselor Laurel Eckern worked closely with Justine when she went back to class.
You cannot define Justine Winter by what happened on March 19th. She's passionate, driven, caring. She's a good kid, and I can tell you right now it's exactly what she is. She's a kid.
A kid now facing a possible 200-year sentence. January 2011, nearly 2 years to the wreck, Justine Winter is on trial for double homicide. 2 small-town families now bound in grief and anger. Prosecutors lay out their case.
Winter's vehicle had crossed the center line.
4 grueling days of crash reconstruction.
Tire marks, marks in the road.
And detail about skid marks and fluid patterns.
Justine Winter's car encroached into the northbound lane, striking Mrs. Thompson's vehicle.
State crash investigator Barbara Watson testifies that construction on the bridge that night brought the road down to 2 lanes, and that Aaron had nowhere to turn when Justine's car careened into her lane at 85 miles an hour.
And Miss Thompson was going how fast?
Approximately 31 miles per hour.
Justine was accelerating full throttle at 85 miles an hour. My wife had been trying to slow down and wasn't able to get off the road, and I could only imagine how terrified she was.
And then the testimony turns to those desperate text messages between Justine and her boyfriend in the half hour before the crash. To the prosecution, clear evidence that Justine was a distraught teenager bent on suicide. Her weapon, a 2-ton Grand Am barreling 30 miles over the speed limit on a country highway.
I want to kill myself. Goodbye, Ryan. I love you.
Lead detective Kip Tkachuk reads out the texts.
That's why I'm going to wreck my car, because all I can do is up. Because I wanted to kill myself. I wanted you out of my car so I could do what you told me I couldn't.
And then this final text from Ryan, just 6 minutes before the crash.
Do the right thing. All your life you're a puppy and you run from instead of facing it. You killing yourself is just another way for you to run away.
The prosecution calls boyfriend Ryan Langford.
When you were at Justine's house, did you see items in her room that caused you to get mad?
Yes.
What did you see?
A journal about one of my friends that she had dated previously.
Ryan testifies the two argued all evening.
Could she have gotten the impression that you guys had broken up?
It was an argument, so yes.
Then Justine takes off into the Montana night, and the wave of threatening text messages begins.
But you were concerned enough to try and call her several times, and you got no answer?
Yes.
Did you indicate whether or not you had a concern that she had possibly hurt herself?
Yes.
The prosecution rests. Now Justine's lawyers are about to mount a defense that will outrage Aaron's family. They begin their case with a jaw-dropping theory, the opposite of the prosecution's. They argue it was actually Aaron Thompson who caused the horrific crash that killed her and her son, Caden.
Did all the calculations confirm that the accident had occurred in the southbound lane?
Yes.
Defense witnesses suggest construction on the bridge may have confused Aaron, causing her to veer her white SUV into Justine's car. With wreckage strewn everywhere, it was impossible to know who was in which lane, says defense expert Scott Curry.
So, Mr. Curry, before you had even found what you believed to be the point of impact, you basically threw out what the Highway Patrol had concluded. Yes. Don't you consider that jumping to conclusions? No.
Curry says his conclusions were based on careful analysis of the evidence. Beyond the roadside forensics, did Justine's wave of desperate text messages constitute a suicide note? In court, battle lines are drawn. The defense turns to boyfriend Ryan Langford.
At one time, you described Justine as a person who could not even hurt a fly?
Yes.
Do you still believe that?
Yes.
Then, a protective father, Randy Winter, boldly defends his only daughter.
She did well in school. It was kind of like she was a model kid that you didn't have to worry a lot about. She wasn't into drugs, she wasn't into alcohol, anything like that.
Has Justine at any time, prior to March 19th of 2009, ever act as if she was depressed?
No.
So why would this straight-A sophomore suddenly threaten to kill herself?
I believe the communication was conversational. It did not, in my opinion, constitute a suicide note.
Enter defense psychologist Scott Poland, a national expert on teen suicide who examined Justine's texts.
I suspect that all the adults here would be quite surprised to know how many times young people talk about death, suicide, killing each other, and we have to be careful not to take it out of context.
I do believe it was an accident. I don't think that Justine Winter intended to kill herself. I don't believe that the texting constituted a suicide note, and I further don't believe she intended to harm anyone else.
Dr. Poland's belief is challenged by prosecutor Lori Adams.
Dr. Poland, let me get it straight. Nobody knows what Justine Winter's mental state was on March 19, 2009, correct?
Correct.
The prosecution introduced text messages from Justine to Ryan to show she was depressed about things at home and dependent on her new boyfriend.
You're the only thing holding me together. The only reason my parents won't get a divorce and move to an apartment or whatever is because of me. So I live with them basically hating each other and me. You make me know that at least one person cares.
But was it enough to convince jurors that Justine was really suicidal? After all, just one holdout would mean a hung jury or even acquittal. Freedom for the teenage girl.
That was a concern, that somebody on the juror would say, she's 16 years old, I'm just not convinced she did it on purpose. I'm not going to convict her.
What would the jury believe? And will Justine take the stand to tell her story? A story she says she doesn't remember. Stay with us. Throughout her 9-day trial, accused killer Justine Winter, now 17, sits silently, her face betrayed.